Imagine this: the biggest movie star in the world, standing at the edge of everything he thought he knew about love. From whirlwind romances to shocking betrayals, Brad Pitt's love story isn't just Hollywood gossip, it's a saga of passion, heartbreak, and one connection he admits he's never let go of. But who was the woman who left a mark deeper than all the others? And why, after decades, does she still live in his heart? Stay with us because today we're peeling back the curtain on the real love story behind Brad Pitt's legend, one Hollywood never fully told. Before Brad Pitt became the face of Hollywood, he was just another young dreamer navigating love and heartbreak. His earliest relationships reveal a side of Brad that most people never saw before the red carpets, before the paparazzi, before the world even knew his name. One of his first romances was with British pop singer Sunita in the late 1980s. She remembers him as beautiful, fun, and unbelievably sweet. Years later, watching him on screen in Thelma and Louise, she admitted thinking, "Oh my God, what have I done?" Realizing she had let go of someone destined for greatness. But not everyone cheered for them. Once, a stranger slapped her in a supermarket simply because she had dated Brad Pitt. That moment showed just how intense the spotlight could be, even in his earliest days. After Sunita came actress Jill Schoelen, whom Brad met while filming the horror movie Cutting Class. Their spark didn't last long, but it was part of the path that led him deeper into Hollywood circles. Then there was E.G. Daily, a voice actress who described Brad as deep-souled and super cute. She felt his relentless drive, saying it was almost visceral, like he was chasing something bigger than himself. Their romance was brief, but they stayed friends. Proof that even early on, Brad left lasting bonds. Not all connections were without controversy. With actress Robin Givens, Brad found himself caught in the middle of her highly publicized split from boxer Mike Tyson. Tyson later claimed in his memoir that he caught Givens and Brad together, though Givens insists the story was exaggerated. Yes, Brad and I pulled up in the driveway, she admitted years later, but the rest never happened. Brad's charm also caught the attention of Christina Applegate, who even brought him to the 1989 MTV Movie Awards, only to ditch him mid-event for another man. She never revealed who it was, leaving one of Hollywood's most famous unanswered questions hanging in the air. But soon, Brad would find himself in his first truly serious relationship, the kind that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. That chapter began with a young actress named Juliette Lewis, and it would change the way he understood love. By the early 1990s, Brad Pitt was no longer just another struggling actor. He was becoming a name. And with that came a romance that stood out from all the fleeting Hollywood flings. Enter Juliette Lewis. Brad met her in 1989 when she was only 16, and despite the age difference, they began a relationship that lasted 4 years, longer than most expected. They starred together in films like Too Young to Die in California, where their on-screen chemistry mirrored the intensity of their real lives. Even after their breakup, Brad spoke of Juliette with a tenderness that surprised many. In a Vanity Fair interview, he confessed, "I still love the woman. There's some real genius there. It was one of the greatest relationships I've ever been in." He admitted he once believed love could conquer all, only to realize life was more complicated. Juliette, years later, reminded the public that she was more than just Brad's ex. "I quit all my bulls. At 22, I've grown. People need to move on." Still, the love they shared left a mark. Brad's star power exploded after Legends of the Fall, and so did his dating life. He was briefly linked to model Jitka Poladek, who called him simply a man who glows. But it wasn't until 1994 that Brad stepped into a relationship that would define an era. That year, he met Gwyneth Paltrow on the set of C7N. She played his wife on screen and off screen. Their love grew quickly and deeply. Brad called her his angel and the love of his life in his 1996 Golden Globe speech. Hollywood was convinced they were the perfect couple. They were soon engaged, and Gwyneth's father adored Brad. But in 1997, everything shattered. The engagement was called off. Years later, Gwyneth admitted she wasn't ready. "I was such a kid, I messed that up." And yet, the love lingered. In 2022, decades after their breakup, Brad told her, "It's lovely to have you as a friend now." Gwyneth described their first meeting as major, major love at first sight, recalling the night Brad proposed on a balcony in Argentina. She was 24, thrilled, and completely swept away. It was a romance filled with quiet, personal moments, far deeper than the red carpets and tabloid covers ever revealed. And while it didn't last, it set the stage for Brad's next great love story, one that would take Hollywood by storm. When Brad Pitt met Jennifer Aniston for the first time in 1994, sparks didn't immediately fly. They were simply two rising stars introduced by their managers. Jen later said her first impression was that Brad was just a sweet guy from Missouri, normal, grounded, ordinary. But 4 years later, fate circled back. Both were newly single, Jen fresh out of a breakup, Brad reeling from his split with Gwyneth Paltrow. This time, something clicked instantly. Their first date, Jen recalled, was effortless. Easy laughter, fun conversation, and a feeling that something bigger was beginning. By 1999, Hollywood was obsessed. When the pair walked the red carpet together at the Emmy Awards, cameras flashed as if royalty had arrived. Months later, during a Sting concert in New York, they announced their engagement, Jen showing off a custom-designed diamond ring Brad had spent 7 months creating. On July 29th, 2000, they married in Malibu in what became one of Hollywood's most iconic weddings. 200 guests, 50,000 flowers, fireworks over the ocean, and even a gospel choir. It cost nearly $1 million, but the magic wasn't in the price tag, it was in the smiles. Jennifer's father, actor John Aniston, walked her down the aisle and later said, "It was spectacular. She looked beautiful." For a while, they were inseparable. Hollywood's golden couple. Brad even made a guest appearance on Jen's hit show Friends, playing a character who hilariously hated Rachel Green. Their chemistry lit up the screen, and fans adored them even more. Together, they launched Plan B Entertainment, a production company that would later create Oscar-winning films like The Departed and 12 Years a Slave. It seemed like their love and careers were unstoppable, but behind the smiles, cracks began to show. In 2003, when a reporter asked Jen if Brad was the love of her life, her answer surprised many. "Is he the love of my life? I don't know. He's certainly a big love in my life." It wasn't doubt, it was honesty, a glimpse into the complicated reality behind their perfect image. In 2004, Jen spoke of wanting children, saying she was ready to slow down and start a family, but just months later, in January 2005, the unthinkable happened. Brad and Jen announced their separation after 7 years together. Their joint statement was calm, careful, and full of respect. This decision is the result of much thoughtful consideration. We remain committed friends with great love and admiration for one another. But the world wasn't ready to let go of Hollywood's fairy tale couple, and soon Brad would be linked to another woman, one whose name would ignite headlines for years to come. In 2003, Brad Pitt stepped onto the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, a film about two assassins living double lives. He was still married to Jennifer Aniston. She was Angelina Jolie, Hollywood's rebel heart, already raising her young son, Maddox. Neither expected what would happen next. At first, Angelina described their connection as nothing more than professional. They were teammates, thrown into high-energy stunts and long hours on set, but over time, something shifted. "I realized I couldn't wait to get to work," she admitted in a later interview. It wasn't just the film keeping her up at night, it was Brad. By 2005, Brad and Jennifer announced their separation, and within months, whispers turned to headlines. Brad and Angelina were more than co-stars. Soon, Angelina's children, Maddox and Zahara, had Jolie Pitt added to their names. In January 2006, she confirmed what the world had already guessed. She was pregnant with Brad's child. Their daughter Shiloh was born that spring, and the world's obsession with the Jolie Pitt family skyrocketed. Over the years, the couple's family grew, adopting Pax from Vietnam and later welcoming twins, Knox and Vivian. Their home became a whirlwind of love, chaos, and global attention. For a while, it seemed perfect. They made their red carpet debut in 2006, raised 6 children together, and continued to work side by side. Brad once called their life madness, but beautiful madness. By 2012, their kids were begging them to get married, so they did. In August 2014, at their French estate, Chateau Miraval, Brad and Angelina exchanged vows. Angelina's wedding dress had drawings from their children stitched into the fabric, and the kids even wrote parts of the vows. It was a picture-perfect moment, but behind the joy, tension was brewing. 2 years later, in 2016, Angelina filed for divorce. Her statement was brief. It was for the health of the family. Brad, heartbroken, asked only that their kids be given space. Then came the darkest moment. Reports surfaced of a serious argument on a private plane, rumors of violence. Brad denied ever hurting his children. The FBI investigated, child services stepped in, but ultimately no charges were filed. Still, the damage was done. Their divorce dragged on for years. Custody battles, financial disputes, and a fight over their beloved winery, Miraval, that continues even today. The love that began with laughter on a movie set ended in courtroom silence. What was once Hollywood's most glamorous love story had unraveled into one of its most bitter breakups. After his split from Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt stepped out of the spotlight not as the world's most famous leading man, but as a man trying to put the pieces of his life back together. Years of legal battles, media frenzy, and family struggles had left him bruised. And for a long time, Brad stayed quiet, avoiding the dating scene altogether. By 2018, whispers began again. Brad was seen spending time with MIT professor Neri Oxman, a brilliant architect whose work pushed the boundaries of science and design. Rumors exploded. Was this Brad's new chapter? Friends said he admired her intelligence and independence. Neri later denied they were romantically involved, but she called Brad the last of the Mohicans in post-Netflix Hollywood, praising his timeless presence. It was the kind of comment that hinted at deep respect, even if not love. Then came Nicole Petrowski, a German model linked to Brad in 2020. They were spotted together in France at Chateau Miraval, the same estate once tied to his marriage with Angelina. Sources described their chemistry as playful, but it faded quickly. Insiders later said it was never serious, just a fling that ended as quietly as it began. By late 2022, Brad's name was once again in the headlines. First with Emily Ratajkowski, fresh out of her own marriage. Their time together was casual, more about shared conversations and brief sparks than anything long-term. Friends hinted that Brad enjoyed her wit and love of art, but neither was searching for something heavy. Then, in November 2022, something shifted. Brad was seen with Inez de Ramon, a jewelry designer recently separated from her husband, actor Paul Wesley. This time, it felt different. Sources revealed they'd been quietly dating for months before anyone knew, and Brad was really into her. By December, they celebrated Brad's 59th birthday together with friends in Los Angeles. Witnesses described him as happy, playful, almost boyish again. Inez sat beside him, and people noticed. She made him light up. By early 2024, Inez had moved into Brad's home. Insiders said the relationship wasn't just casual anymore. She's great for him. She lifts him up. In September that year, they made their red carpet debut at the Venice Film Festival, walking hand in hand. For the first time in years, Brad seemed unguarded. Not the heartbroken divorcee, not the tabloid headline, just a man smiling beside someone who gave him peace. Even after the divorces, the scandals, and the years that rolled by, there has always been one thread tying Brad Pitt back to his past: Jennifer Aniston. In 2007, 2 years after their split, Brad admitted in V magazine, "Jen and I still maintain a deep friendship. We have a lot of life together that isn't erased." It was a quiet reminder that some bonds don't disappear with time, they transform. But it wasn't until January 2000 that the world saw it for themselves. At the Screen Actors Guild Awards, Jennifer had just won for the morning show. Backstage, Brad waited. When she appeared, they locked eyes, smiled, and embraced. Just one hug, one simple hug, and the internet erupted. Photos of Brad holding her wrist as she walked away went viral, fans dissecting every glance, every touch. For some, it wasn't just a reunion, it was hope. Later that year, they reunited again, this time on screen. A virtual table read of fast times at Ridgemont High put them in front of cameras together for the first time since their marriage. They played flirty characters, their chemistry still unmistakable. Jennifer laughed, Brad grinned, and the moment went viral once more. Fans couldn't help but wonder, was this just friendship or something more? Jennifer addressed it directly. "Brad and I are buddies. We're friends." Simple words, but they carried weight. No bitterness, no awkwardness, just mutual respect, warmth, and a bond that had survived what many thought would break them forever. Years earlier, in 2006, Jennifer had confessed in Vanity Fair, "I love Brad. I will love him for the rest of my life. He's a fantastic man. We spent 7 intense years together. We taught each other a lot about healing and fun. I don't regret any of it." She admitted what hurt most wasn't the end itself, but how the world reduced their love to a Hollywood cliche. And perhaps that's the truth that lingers. For the tabloids, Brad and Jen were the ultimate golden couple, beautiful, successful, and tragic. But behind closed doors, they were simply two people who loved, grew, and despite everything, found their way back to each other as friends. In recent years, their paths have crossed at birthdays, parties, and small gatherings. Not as exes defined by divorce, but as companions who share a history too deep to erase. Every smile, every hug, every candid moment whispers the same truth. Some connections never fully fade. For many fans, Jennifer Aniston remains the one love Brad Pitt never truly let go of, the quiet constant in a life of chaos. Whether or not they ever rekindle what they once had almost doesn't matter. What matters is the respect, the care, and the undeniable warmth that still exists between them. And maybe that's the real love story here. Not one of fairy tale endings, but of two people who found a way to hold on to each other, even when everything else slipped away. So, what do you think? Was Jennifer Aniston truly the love of Brad Pitt's life? Or was she simply the one who taught him what love could be? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more untold Hollywood stories.